There have been also other attempts to require more accountability for unemployment benefits, such as evidence that the recipient is looking for work. Do you support drug testing for welfare recipients, and do you think we should tighten requirements generally for those receiving government benefits?
Let me answer those in reverse order. Yes, we should tighten requirements for people receiving government assistance, no question, and having them actively out looking into the workplace would be a very reasonable expectation. Let's talk about drug testing of welfare recipients. It's very tempting. Well, let me start by saying it's very irritating, very frustrating to think that we're giving tax dollars to people who are then taking those dollars either literally or figuratively and going out and buying illicit drugs with them. So it's very tempting to want to do a blanket testing. The fact is there are three reasons why blanket testing of welfare recipients for drugs doesn't work. First of all, look at the data. Actually, they use drugs in a lower percentage than the average person on the street. Secondly, it costs money. Florida's had a pretty bad failure so far. When they drug test all welfare recipients, it costs them more money than it saves. And third, several states are seeing their laws challenged in the Supreme Court on Fourth Amendment concerns of illegal search and seizure. And so as far as blanket testing, no, I would not support that. I think we need to do targeted testing. Anybody who is receiving welfare who has a history, let's say they've been convicted of a drug crime, a violent crime, domestic violence, DUI, any of those sorts of precursors, we should test them and should watch them very closely. But as far as broad drug testing, I don't think that really stands up to the test. I would, however, encourage, and I would volunteer to drug test all legislators. I would be very welcome.
30 seconds.
I'll wrap this up. I'd be very happy to do that and would be glad to propose legislation. It's one of my first acts. Thank you.
You know, as I grew up, one of the things that my dad taught me is that to be responsible. And I don't care if that's in the workforce, if you're at home, wherever you are. And I think, so for folks that are out in the workplace and that we're paying for them, yeah, I mean, as you all know, that we've built a system where folks are dependent upon what the state gives them. And I think that is a big problem. And so we do need to look at how we do that. When it comes to the drug testing, yes, I think so. Now, what they've amended, their piece they amended is if they're suspected of doing drugs that they're going to do the testing. And Steve's right, you can't go out and just test everybody because it is going to cost the state way too much money. But I do agree with the fact that if they're under a suspect, yeah, I think you ought to. And I think that'll be other conditions. It's going back to what my dad said. You got to take responsibility for yourself. So I do agree.
Well, I believe that when you get something from the government, no matter what the situation is, you always lose a little bit of your liberty. We can look at that across the board and everything that is done. And I think it applies here too. But what I would recommend is testing everyone per se, but in a certain order. What we would need to do is when they apply for this assistance, then they take a drug test the first time. If they're on drugs, they don't get it. And then after that, it's just like our employers. Basically the same thing our employers do. If you get hired on a job, they're going to drug test you. And then throughout the next year, they're going to randomly drug test all of the people in the workforce to find out if they are on drugs. I believe we need to implement a system somewhat like that. And then again, add to that, if someone does have a history, watch them maybe a little bit closer. But get the best of both worlds in it that way.